orchard in the early evening, very late afternoon. And this row right here are pears. They've already flowered out, and there's little pears on it. Not a whole lot, but some. I've got a crab apple here. It's flowering at the same time as my apple there, and the next two on this other row here. The crab apple is a pollinator, an additional pollinator. This is a Macintosh. This is a tree that my Uncle Don gave me. He just liked the apple. I did not know that it was just a store-bought apple, but we're going to get a lot of apples on that this year, as you can tell by all the flowers. And this one low that I've pruned low is a pink lady, and that is the very tree that I use to graft onto the Cleveland flowering pear up front. I'm going to take you and show you that in a minute. But this one, I also grafted this one over here, and I don't see any blooms on this one yet. It'll come up in the next couple years, or in the next season or two. But it's flowering out nicely now. I can't remember what kind of, it was another kind of apple tree. I think it was another one Uncle Don gave us, but I wanted to make it fruitful, if you will. So I grafted Pink Lady onto them several places there, and this is all Pink Lady graft scion that's grown out. This pear here is the one that I like the most, and I'm having a problem thinking of the variety it is right now, but it has died off, and it wasn't really known for growing in this area, but I thought I might be able to do it. But I have some scions that are flowering on the big tree up front that I took off of this tree. This one was Comice, C-O-M-I-C-E, and it's considered like a dessert pear, and I wanted to grow so badly, but it didn't make it this year. It died on me. Besides the pear, the peaches here have already flowered and they got small fruit on them. I haven't been able to harvest any because I think raccoons or possum are getting them every year before I can harvest them, which kind of ticks me off, but such is life, huh? I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take some pollen in a brush from this Macintosh, and I'm going to go to the front where I grafted onto that Cleveland Select flowering pear, and I'm going to attempt to pollinate using this pollen here a couple of the flowers up there. I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. So I use this little brush here, and I just stuck it into the anther cone, the anthers of the Macintosh, and I brought it out here. You can see here I tapped it a couple times, and up here with the brush, and I'm not sure. The thing is with this tree, with apples, as far as apples go, there's no pollinator anywhere near the front yard. They're all in the backyard. So I haven't had any apples on this thing yet. That plus the apple graft is just now starting to produce flowers. So some people have said that it's impossible to graft apple onto a pear tree. Well, this was a Cleveland Select flowering pear, and I originally grafted 4 different types of apple: Hood, Purdue, Comice, and Moonglow onto this tree, along with the Pink Lady apple I showed you just a second ago. And this one Pink Lady graft, if you look here, it's outgrowing the flowering pear. This is where the graft was, right here. Eventually this will grow into the tree here and it'll become one. You won't be able to even tell. But just like this side here, is you can't tell hardly where the pear and the flowering pear connect. But if you go around to the other side, you can definitely see right there. So it was originally a 4-pear and an apple tree. That's what I called it. But we had the comus that was here started and it died off. So now it's a 3-pear and apple tree. And I assure you that this one scion right here was apple, is apple. And you can tell there with the flowers being way later than the pears, just like the apples in the backyard. Now what I want to do is show apples, actual apples and actual pears on this tree to debunk completely all those people that say you can't graft apples and pears together. And some articles say you can't because they're two different species. They're both in the same family, but they're two different species. And I think the flowering pear allows that to happen. So there's not many apple leaves yet, but when it flowers out, or when it leaves out completely, I'll pull an apple leaf and a pear leaf off of here and we'll compare it to the backyard apples and pear leaves, and you'll be able to see for yourself. If you look here, you can see little pears are starting to grow already. So we're going to have some pears on this one, not nearly as many as there was on that one over there. That one, I guess because it's a bigger tree, those grafts took like mad and they're producing like crazy. I had to cut them back. They were growing so aggressively. I'll just end this video with this little part right here. This scion graft junction is right here and here. On this particular side of the large tree is the comus pear, and it looks really good. Now, one thing I did notice about this particular, when I cut back all the limbs on the bottom here that were the pears, the flowering pears, it did something to them. There's not nearly the amount of fruit there was last year and year before, but I'm definitely certain it's going to come back again very shortly. The problem is it became so weighted down with fruit, it was just touching the ground, and of course the critters came and got it. Anyway, these are doing well as well, and that's 2 wells in a row. Anyway, this is Brent, you guys. We'll see you later. Hey everybody, I'm out here at my orchard. I usually don't do myself included in the video work, but I'm at my apple tree here. This one's a Macintosh. I'm going to get a leaf from the Macintosh, and I'm going to get a leaf from another apple of mine called Pink Lady. And I'm also going to get a leaf from one of my pear trees, and that's so I can show you the difference between these trees back here and the grafted tree up front. And I'm doing that because some folks are saying that you cannot graft apple to a pear tree, and probably vice versa, because they're two different species. But with the Cleveland flowering pear that I used up front, I was certainly able to do it, and that's the purpose of today's video, is to show that and to give you just an overall update after 5 or 6 years, however long it's been now. So here we go. I'm going to just pluck a leaf off of here. I'll turn the camera around. Let's get one that doesn't have any blemishes, really. Turn the viewer around so I can see what I'm doing with you. Alright, there's that leaf. I'll just get one apple leaf. I think all apple leaves look the same. We'll go over to the Pink Lady. This is the one that's actually growing, that's grafted to it up front. It's actually doing better than the one it came from. And you can see little Pink Lady apples on it, and I think they're redder because they're getting more sun than the one up front. But that leaf is certainly, so let's go ahead and just get a Pink Lady leaf off of here. That way it'll be even. And yeah, we do have a thunderstorm coming on, so I need to get this done quick. This is an apple my uncle gave me, Uncle Don. I've mentioned this before. And I asked him what he got this from. I thought it was a grafted tree, and he replanted it, something you know, regrafted and gave it to us. But this, he said, this is just an apple I like the taste of, and I planted the seeds. So this is some unusual apple, because as you know, all fruit trees, almost all of them sold today, are grafted. So these are the 3 of the 4. My Comus died. These are 3 of the 4, Moonglow, Hood, and Purdue, that are grafted onto the tree up there. I'm going to pluck one of these leaves off, and we're going to look at it just right here, right now. You can see a difference between them. Well, I'm going to go up here and I'll show you them on the ground or somewhere flat. That's my tree today. This one right here, that's the 4-pear and an apple. It's actually a 3-pear and apple now, because the Comus died off of that, the graft did. There's still a Comus on that one over there, but this one's actually only 3-pear. So let's look at the ground. The wind's picking up here, and we'll take a look at the difference between the 2 leaves. I can hear the rain going. See that? All right. Now that we know that, let's go over to the tree here. I'll show you a difference in the leaves. These are pears. Obviously little pears growing. And I think this is the hood side, but that's a pear right there. And that's a pear leaf. But up here, let me see if I can find one. Here we go. These are apples. These are pink lady apples. And see if I can grab the leaf here. Comes from this very same tree. It's genetically the exact same thing. And this is what the apple on the same tree looks like. Apple, pear. Following it up, pears, apples. I've only got like 1, 2, maybe less than 10 apples growing, but this is the only apple scion that took, and it's quite big. It's so big, it's bigger than the pear knot here. It's growing into it, and I have a feeling within 2 years it's going to start growing into the tree here, and you won't notice this knot here. So after all this time, my apples and pears are fruiting on the same tree. I had pears last year to a degree. This year quite a few more. Now I also have apples. Also down here I had damage from freezing damage several times, and I tried to put a graft in here. This graft didn't take. It's dead, I think. But it's starting to roll over, and I hope that eventually they will combine back together, and I think they will. They're starting to combine over there. Now my big tree, let's see if I can get over to it. It's starting to sprinkle. I don't want to get it on the camera. My big tree here, I planted all the lower limbs with pears, but we had a freeze, and not only did damage to my tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers, but it also killed off the majority of the fruit set on these here. You can see some here. And this is my Comus grafted branch right here, and I don't see any on it at all. It had a lot last year. I hope that wind, that thunderstorm moving in, allows you to hear me better. But see, it's coming out. There's some fruit on this one. Some, but I mean, they were huge and loaded last year. And if you haven't watched these at all, this is another Cleveland Select, but I only grafted to the very bottom of the tree. My wife absolutely would kill me if I completely cut this one down like I did that one right over there. She would absolutely kill me if I had done that. So I kind of snuck grafted these onto the bottom where she probably wouldn't notice the difference. And she may know the difference, but if she does, she hasn't said anything. So that's an update on the pears and the apples now growing on my tree. I grafted my 3-pear and an apple tree. This is Brent, you guys, getting rained on, about to get thunderstormed on, if that's a word. We'll see you later.